SBS Radio is this year celebrating its 40th anniversary. To mark the event, we'll be meeting some of the people who've made the station what it is. Tonight, we take a look at the Kurdish program.
SBS Radio
SBS RADIO Kurdish.
Celebrating the Kurdish way. Women of all generations at an event SBS Radio Kurdish broadcaster Rosa Gamian will cover for her listeners. She was inspired to become a journalist because of a chance encounter with a reporter during the First Gulf War. Her family was forced to flee the country in 1991 and settled in Australia 5 years later.
It was actually very liberating to be able to say I am Kurdish to everyone who asks where you're from. As countries I travelled through in the Middle East, we were, recommended by many people not to say what our background was.
The dresses worn by these women reflect the diversity of the Kurdish community, which has been growing since the 1980s. Many have fled their homelands because of unrest, arriving in Australia as refugees. Most recent figures show there are more than 4,500 Kurdish speakers in Australia. They come from regions in Turkey, Iran, Iraq and Syria, where conflict has displaced many people. People such as SBS listener Zaria Muff, who arrived in Australia with her family when she was 8. She says political divisions in the community make unbiased news hard to get elsewhere.
It's very political. Yeah, it's kind of divided by politics. So you got like the nationalists, the communists, the religious people, the non-religious people.
SBS Radio, she says, offers her something many other media sources don't.
In terms of like cultural sensitivity and awareness, SBS is the best place to go.
Shahin Baker led the program for 33 years.
It was a shock for me, but I gradually fell in love with this country.
He was drawn here from Kobani in Syria after seeing a documentary about Australia.
Today's settlers, the new Australians of the 1960s, are reaching Australia's shores from many countries.
As for his family who stayed behind, life has been tough.
My brothers lived in Kobani and in the village themselves. They all were there until towards the end of September. They all now left everything behind and became refugees, unfortunately.
Along with around 200,000 others forced to flee the town since fighting broke out between IS militants and Syrian Kurdish forces last September. Peggy Giakoumelos, SBS World News.